All right, let's try this. We're good right now. Let's try this. I don't know how long this will last. I really don't. You guys, let me know if the video goes away because I won't be able to monitor all the different channels. I am gonna start this over for the sake of the audio. So let me do this. Let me do this. Let's do this. Let's play our theme song.
The radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Thursday, May 22nd. For those of you who do not know, it's one day before my birthday. So wish me happy birthday for tomorrow. I am in London, as many of you know, and just came back from a talk I gave at the Institute for Economic Affairs. About 60, I think, people were there. I know some of you were there. A number of people came up to me, say they are fans of the show and listen and watch the show on a regular basis. So thank you guys for all of that. Yes, Neo, I just turned 34. 34, plus or minus 30 years. There was a lot of fun. Reem was not there for some reason. I'm not sure why. But anyway, it was a good talk. Morality of Capitalism was entertaining. I was in my usual, or maybe not usual, but I was in top form, so it was good. Yesterday I was at York. I gave a talk there also on the morality of capitalism. That was good. I was at Harrow, a school on Monday, which is the school Churchill went to. So it's all boys boarding school. This is the elite go there. And that was really, really good. And then Tuesday, I was at St. Edward's, which is another boarding school, mixed, boys and girls, in Oxford. And that was great. So I talked about free speech and objectivism on Monday, and on Tuesday, inequality. And the interesting thing is that one of the reasons it's so easy for me to get into these schools is that Ayn Rand is required reading in the advanced politics class at British, UK high schools. So A1 politics, which is like, what would you call that in the US? That would be like, what would be the advanced classes? Anyway, advanced class. And Ayn Rand is required as a spin in her grave conservative thinker. And the teachers, of course, know she's not a conservative. They realize she's not a conservative. One of them says, she's a radical, she's not a conservative. I said, yeah, absolutely. But they put her into the curriculum as a conservative thinker. What's important for us, for me, for you, I think, is that she's being taught. And as a consequence, they bring me in to try to explain some of the concepts to kids, and that's great. So yeah, really enjoyed it. I really love going to these high schools. I think it's crucial. And hopefully some of them will be intrigued enough ultimately to read Atlas Shrugged, The Fountainhead, and really get into it in more detail. All right, so we've got a bunch of topics to cover today, and we will do that as long as the internet allows us. In the background there, you can see the skyline of London, and that is the bar in my room. All right, so let's. I guess what I meant was A1 is like AP. It's like an AP politics class, so it's advanced placement. So this is the advanced politics class. Ayn Rand is required reading. Behind that's some buildings, but underneath it is the river. So I'm right on the Thames River. It really is beautiful here. All right, as you might know, last night there was a tragic, a horrific shooting in Washington D.C. A young couple, Yaron Lishinsky and Sarah Milgram, were gunned down at just outside an American Jewish Committee event at the Jewish Museum by some guy named Elias Rodriguez, who chanted as he shot at them, and later, when he was arrested by police, "Free, free Palestine." As I think others have noted online, this is what you get when you globalize the Intifada. The Intifada is about killing Jews. The Intifada is about violence. The Intifada is about slaughtering and killing and destroying. When students and other demonstrators all over the United States and all over the world really talk about globalizing Intifada, this is what it looks like. It looks like somebody coming up with a gun and shooting people, shooting innocent civilians. Now, it happens that these two that he shot were working at the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., but I don't think that's why he shot them. I don't think he knew that they were embassy workers. He shot them because they were Jews. He shot them because they were attending a Jewish event. People can claim that what is going on is protests against Israel. But globalizing the Intifada, the kind of slogans, the kind of language, the kind of activity that these protests involve, this is way beyond criticizing Israel. This is a call to murder Jews. This is an ancient anti-Semitic call to slaughter anybody who could be deemed to be Jewish. Remember, Hitler didn't care if you called yourself Jewish or not. Hitler didn't care if you were technically a Jew or not based on rabbinical, standards. All Hitler cared is you had some Jewish blood, whatever the hell that means. Of course, people are already out there on Twitter, either praising the killing and blaming Jews in Israel for the killing, or like Nick Fuentes, calling it a false flag, an excuse to do away with free speech and diplomacy. Oops, what happened here? This is not what's supposed to be here. Yeah, or the Bronx Anti-War Coalition, right? This is the Bronx Anti-War Coalition. These are the people that organize pro-Palestinian rallies in New York City. Just a few minutes ago, what Ilya Rodriguez did is the highest expression of anti-Zionism. It's the highest expression, true, of anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism. It's the higher expression of hatred. So, somebody goes up and shoots a couple of Jews. Somebody goes up and shoots the CEO of a pharmaceutical company. And there are people in our society, people in our culture, that jump at the opportunity to praise such a person. What is going on here? 1 second. Little technical things, but we will get there. Maybe. There we go. Is that working? All right, that's working. All right. We are now in a period of legitimized political violence. Not political violence against candidates, presidential candidates, although of course we did see a couple of assassination attempts against Donald Trump, but political violence in the name of a variety of different causes. And there's a public call for this violence. Remember, every time you see globalized intifada, what they really mean is slaughter Jews worldwide. What they really mean is suicide bombings. Really what they mean, if they expanded beyond Jews, is 9/11. And these people are going to be made into heroes because, as they said, this is the ultimate form of anti-Zionism. This is the best. This is the ultimate. Globalized intifada and these rallies and these demonstrations and these riots at universities and on our streets and in the streets of London, these are all, by the way, important to note, funded by the Qataris, by Qatar, who Donald Trump just visited, who want to give him a $400 million plane, who have basically bought out our universities and trying to buy out our press and are bribing our politicians all the way up to the White House. This idea of globalizing the Intifada is well backed, well funded, well supported, and legitimized. And part of the legitimacy is the way our media covers the news. When Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro was nearly assassinated, burned alive in his bed on Passover, because he's Jewish, the press barely covered it. Barely covered it. But what did they cover? What does the press cover all the time? It covers the so-called genocide in Gaza. It covers the evil of the Israelis and the nobility of the Palestinians. Constant stories about, 14,000, here's a headline from NBC News, around 14,000 babies could die in the next 48 hours if many more aid trucks do not reach Gaza, the UN's humanitarian chief says. Well, Jews are killing babies. Ooh, that sounds familiar. Isn't that a blood libel from the Dark Ages, Middle Ages? Yeah. Jews killing babies has a lot of emotional power. And that's NBC. That's not just some, radical, way out, far left or far right publication. If you endlessly tell people out there, Jews are killing babies, Jews are killing babies, Jews are killing tens of thousands, 14,000 babies. Now, I'm willing to bet all of the money I own the 14,000 babies will not die in 48 hours. It doesn't take much journalistic integrity to realize that that is a fake news. Does anybody complain? Has anybody complained? No. So, the left hates Israel. By extension, now hates Jews. Globalized Intifada is their new slogan. Now, it's not all the left, but certainly the far left. It's it's not a surprise that some crazy nut decides to go and do something about it. When a crazy person like Kanye West can put out a song called Heil Hitler, and people are listening to it. People are not shunning it. People are not boycotting it. People are listening to it. And Kanye still makes the news on a regular basis. When prominent figures like Candace Owen and Joe Rogan excuse Kanye's behavior or praise him as a free speech advocate. He said Heil Hitler and he got away with it. Wow. We're normalizing anti-Semitism. We're normalizing hatred of Jews for being Jews. We're normalizing violence against them. And again, the left and the right They don't care. I mean, I haven't seen Candace Owen yet on this shooting, but I'm sure she'll blame Israel. I'm sure she'll blame Jews. I mean, the Iranians that were captured here in the United Kingdom, plotting terrorist attacks in the United Kingdom, and they were recently arraigned in front of a court. They didn't care about whether they were attacking Israeli institutions or Jewish institutions, including kindergartens. They openly call for attacking Zionists worldwide. But what do they mean by that? All Jews are Zionists in their view, and therefore all are legitimate targets. When we morally equate Israel and Hamas, we again normalize misinformation, fake news, and hatred. And you can see this on again, we don't have to recount the Tucker Carlson interviewing the idiot who thinks Churchill was worse than Hitler. Hitler wasn't that bad. Hitler didn't mean to kill all the Jews. And Joe Rogan then follows up, interviews the same person. It really is a dangerous period. And if you're Israeli, if you're Jewish, it's scary out there. Do you speak Hebrew in the street? When you're in a taxi cab or Uber, often in Europe, driven by Arabs, you don't know what kind of an Arab, what their belief system is. Often they're not Arab, sometimes they're South Asians, but they're often Muslim. How do you know? If you speak Hebrew, what's the driver going to do? Take you to a back alley and shoot you? I mean, probably not, but how do you know? Now, all of this just reinforces one thing, and that is the need for a state like the State of Israel. Today, almost half the Jews in the world live in Israel. And it goes up a little bit every year, where, at least to some extent, they're protected by a military force. But more than that, it's a place where they can defend themselves, fight the injustices. And, there needs to be a state where Jews can escape to, where they won't find anti-Semitism. Now, the challenge in Israel is that because of Israel's weakness, as we've discussed many, many times, it hasn't created the safe space that it should. It's allowed Hamas and others to gain power and to gain the ability to inflict violence on Israel. But we're still seeing Houthi missiles targeted at Israel. But at least there's a place to escape. Now, I don't consider myself Jewish. I don't think of myself as Jewish. There's nothing Jewish about my behavior, my ideas, my thoughts, my beliefs. I'm not religious. I didn't raise my kids to be Jewish. They know almost nothing about Judaism and about what it means to be Jewish. I don't care if they marry non-Jews. But at times like this, I know that the world out there doesn't care if I think of myself as Jewish or not. All they care is if my DNA shows a Jewish heritage, a Jewish bloodline. And it does. All they care about is that I speak Hebrew, born in Israel. My parents consider themselves Jews. They're Ashkenazi Jews. My wife's parents consider themselves Jewish. At times like this, it doesn't matter what I think of myself. It matters what the world thinks of me. When they come gunning for me, they won't ask me, Yaron, how seriously do you take your Judaism? No. They'll say, your name is Yaron, that's an Israeli name, bullet to the head. Nobody asked the Jews who were led into the gas chambers if they considered themselves Jewish. Many of them did not. Many of them were fully assimilated into German, Polish, Austrian, Czech societies. They were killed nonetheless because they had a grandparent who the Germans identified as Jewish. So it doesn't matter how any of us define what a Jew is. The only thing that matters is how the bad guys define what a Jew is and what they're going to do about it. And as long as there's violence against Jews for being Jews, or for being Jews according to the definition of those who want to define them as such, whether they acknowledge it or not, as long as there are people willing to kill people because of their collective identity, which is false. There is no such thing as a collective identity. Those people need to defend themselves. And the only way to defend themselves, the only way Jews can defend themselves in this crazy world. I used to think just emigrate to America. But think of the synagogue in, Pennsylvania a few years ago, where some nut decided Jews were responsible for illegal immigration, so he went and shot up a synagogue. Think of the guy today. Now, this is still small, but think of all the people defending him. Think of the demonstrators in the street shouting Intifada, globalized Intifada. Think about the Candace Owen and Tucker Carlson. These are not trivial figures. They're not mainstream, but they have millions, millions of followers. Would you be safe if, some of the most influential people in our culture were advocating subtly, not explicitly, in various ways, that you, because of who your grandparents were, are somehow bad, somehow evil, somehow it truly is stunning that in my lifetime, it hasn't really surprised me, because I always knew that this was really the purpose of the state of Israel. This is really why it exists. It exists for the self-defense of people considered Jews, because nowhere else will take them. That history has shown us. Until the world becomes more rational, until the world, until humanity grows up, until humanity embraces individualism and liberty and freedom and capitalism, Jews aren't safe. That's what history has taught us. Jews are not safe. So yeah, they need a state. And that state needs to be strong. And it needs to defeat its enemies. And yeah, in an ideal world, in that world of capitalism and individualism and liberty and freedom, you wouldn't need an Israel. And it wouldn't exist. But that world doesn't exist. That world doesn't exist. So yes, I completely support the state of Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state, not so much as a Jewish state internally in terms of its internal laws, but as a place where Jews can escape to, always, and where they will be protected, always. So you guys are not seeing anything, huh? All right, so I'm going to continue, and I'm going to post this afterwards on YouTube. I know the audio, I think, is going to be fine. Maybe not. We don't have audio. So, but I do have a local version of this. So I'll try to upload the local version after the fact to replace this. On my end, it looks like everything is fine. So I'm not sure. Is everybody not seeing this? Let's see. It says I'm offline. We're streaming again. All right. I'm going to move on, and I'm going to just assume that we can use this as a we can use this. Let's just see. We can use the version that I'm saving for this. All right. News out of the world of Trump. What is this? News out of the world of Trump is that now the Trump administration has decided that Harvard, they're going to basically block all of Harvard's international enrollments. They're just going to not allow Harvard to have foreign students. Now think about this. Harvard is a private university that, wouldn't you think they have a right to admit anybody they want? This is kind of where immigration policy really, where the rubber hits the road. Here's Harvard University. Why can't it invite anybody to come and study at Harvard? I mean, assuming they're not enemies of the state, assuming they're not radicals trying to destroy America, they're not gang members, probably not attending Harvard, they're not carrying infectious diseases, probably not. I had to have a health inspection, I remember, when I enrolled at UT Austin, or bring, vaccine records and things like that, because I was, maybe all students have to do, but certainly I was a foreigner. But for some reason, we have given the ability to completely tell a private company who they can trade with and who they cannot at the whim of the President of the United States. He doesn't like Harvard, so they can't have foreign students. And they can't have foreign students because all foreign students have to apply for an F1 visa from the US government. And the US government can just decide, we'll approve F1 visas, but not if you're going to Harvard. We're not going to approve your F1 visa from Harvard. Completely arbitrary, completely random, complete, unequivocal abuse of the power of the government to inflict harm on a private organization and on private individuals who want to trade peacefully. Now, this should not surprise you at all, I guess, because we give that power to the president in all kinds of other domains. We allow him to decide who can come into the country and who can't, who can visit the country and who can't, and he can exclude certain countries and not other countries. We also give this power to the president to tell us we cannot buy products from country X. Maybe he doesn't say it quite like that. Maybe he just raises tariffs to 145%, so we can't buy the products. But we are now in a state in America, and maybe there's an element of this that's always existed, but it's become more arbitrary and more widespread than ever before, I think. We're in a state in America where the government can intervene at any point, any time, in our voluntary decision to trade and transact with other people because those other people are foreigners. Ooh, the other. Maybe that's the connection to anti-Semitism. It's the other. It's when a country's going through, real change, when a country's going through real angst, economic, existential, cultural angst, when they feel something is wrong, the easiest thing is to blame the other. Indeed, this is one of the sources of anti-Semitism. When there was a plague in Europe, Well, we don't know medicine, so we can't blame that. And we don't know. Maybe it's those Jews. The Jews brought the plague. And that was one of the blood libels. Jews were slaughtered in various places in Europe because they thought that by killing the Jews, the plague would end. When Germany convulsed in the post-World War I era, economically disastrous, political uncertainty, but really cultural angst. Whose fault is that? Why do we have such a bad economy? Why do we have happy inflation? Why is the culture just not right? It's the Jews. And now we broaden it, and I think to some extent it was always this broad. Why isn't America in such trouble? Well, Donald Trump told us in 2015, if he didn't repeat it since, it's the other. It's those immigrants, particularly the so-called illegal immigrants. Ooh, those are dangerous. They're nasty. Illegal immigrants. Ooh, run away. Oh, it's the Chinese. Oh, it's just all those other people, Canadians, who are taking advantage of us. Poor, innocent, trusting Americans being taken advantage of by all these people around the world. And Trump was elected to deal with that. And he is. That's what he's doing. Kicking them out, sending them to prisons in El Salvador, or now to South Sudan. That's the latest. You hear this? That they transported a bunch of illegal immigrants, we think, maybe, who knows, to South Sudan. South Sudan. One of the most dangerous places on planet Earth. But why not? They're off American soil. And the thing we must care the least about, the thing we must never care about at all, are human beings, their lives. Because, hey, they're not human anymore. We've already decided that. Just like the Nazis dehumanized the Jews, and now we're trying to dehumanize Jews again, killers of 14,000 babies, right? Now we're dehumanizing illegal immigrants. Ooh, they're like not exactly human. So if they're sent into a war zone in South Sudan, who cares? If they're sent to prison for the rest of their lives in El Salvador, even though some of them might have not done anything, who cares? We're even willing to abandon our own constitution, our own principles, the principles of due process, in order to fulfill this. We live in a world where individuals don't matter. Who cares what happens to them? They're Jews, or they're illegal. Can't have that. And this brings us back to Trump's administration blocking international enrollment. Arbitrary, capricious. I don't know what the courts will think of this. But, you know, I guess the United States now doesn't want foreign students, or at least not at Harvard. Now, Harvard is not an institution I enjoy defending. It is corrupt. It is a leader of our academia, and academia is thoroughly, systematically corrupt. But this? I mean, what does it mean anymore that we have private institutions? Do we have them at all? Yes, I know Harvard gets money from the government, but so do oil companies, and so do lots of companies. So do lots of institutions. Does that mean there's no private property anymore? No private property anymore because you get some money from the government? Does that mean that now everything is at the behest of government, that everybody must follow the government rules that dictated by government and the arbitrary power that they inflict on you? It can't mean that. So have we lost all respect, all belief? In the existence of anything private? All right. All right, we're on 3 different streams. As I said, that's okay because I'm saving this locally and we'll just upload this after the fact. It's not as fun for me because it means that I don't get to interact with you as much, but it'll just be what it is. It'll just be what it is. All right. Okay. Why don't we make that the show, and I will get back to you about doing future shows, about doing more shows from London. We'll see if we can somehow resolve the issue, the various issues related to the internet. I will try to save some of the super chat questions, but we will see. All right, everybody. I bid you good night, and I'm sorry, I'm sorry this hasn't worked. I'll see if I can do better tomorrow. Bye, everybody.